new concept which is evolving in the e-mobility arena, and that is known as e-mobility as a service. Now, it is actually an extension of mobility as a service, but here it involves mostly EV based vehicles. So, now before we go into that, let's see what exactly e mobility means. So, here the core concept of e mobility as a service hinges upon the definition that we have here. The definition actually shows that a smart transportation system is not one where the poor moves about in cars, but where the rich also use public transportation. And this was a famous statement given by Penaloza, who was the mayor of Bogota city and was responsible for developing one of the excellent public transportation system, which is known as Transmillennia in Bogota. And Transmillennia is actually a BRT corridor with very frequent bus services and actually interlinks the entire city of Bogota and has become very popular with its citizens. So it was his vision to create an excellent public transportation system which can actually enable people to travel from point A to point B with least inconvenience and also give a seamless connectivity. Now, if we take this idea forward and we try to develop the e-mobility concept for the coming years, then we come up with the idea of EMAS, and we here call it as PEMAS. So actually PEMAS stands for Public E-Mobility as a Service. Okay, and the goal of PEMAS is to actually develop a multi-modal public transportation system which ensures not only first mile connectivity but also the last mile connectivity. Now, the idea of first mile and last mile connectivity essentially means that a person does not have to walk long distances to access public transportation system. Okay, so maybe it's possible that you just walk few hundred meters from your home and you are able to access a public transportation system, and once you get down at your destination or the stop of the public transportation system, then you have to walk maximum a few hundred kilometers, maybe 200, 300, sorry, few hundred meters, maybe 100 kilometers or 200 kilometers, and you reach your final destination. So if we can achieve this, then we can say that the transportation system has first mile and last mile connectivity. And here there's an important word, multimodal, in this definition. So multimodal means there are various kinds of vehicles which are involved in public transportation. So if we see the Indian context, they can be e-rickshaws, auto rickshaws, taxis, buses. So all of them constitute the multimodal transportation system. And that is what the next question says, that what type of vehicles are used in multimodal transportation. So we can essentially have, as I said earlier, e-rickshaws, because since we are dealing with e-mobility, so it's e-rickshaws, then e-auto rickshaws, e-vans, electric cars, electric buses, and even metro rail. So if we are able to integrate all of these different kinds of transportation systems, then we can actually ensure that we have the first mile and the last mile connectivity. Now, the core objective of mass in general and e-mass in particular is to limit congestion on the roads, especially during the peak travel periods. So if you look at the traffic scenario, so our roads are choked with vehicles, especially four-wheelers in bigger cities. And if you look at the driving pattern of the four-wheelers, then there is hardly one or two people inside the car. So every vehicle or every car in that sense is underutilized and they occupy a lot of road space. So if we have an excellent mobility as a service infrastructure, then we would be reducing the number of vehicles, and the occupancy of the vehicles will increase, and also their utilization would increase. Because if you pay attention, for example, if I have a car and if I go to office with my car, then it just stands there in the office parking lot for 7 8 hours as long as I am in my office, and then I drive home and it's again sitting in the garage for another 8 9 hours. So the effective duration where the car is used is hardly 3 to 4 hours in a day, which is actually not a very good scenario. But if we have mobility as a service, for example, if we have services like Ola or Uber, so which is shared mobility, also a subset of mobility as a service, then in this case, when we have shared mobility, the utilization of vehicles is higher. Moreover, more people sit in the vehicle, so effectively it reduces the number of vehicles on the roads. Also, if we have a good mobility as a service infrastructure available with us, then we would reduce the car ownership, also the usage of cars, and also the number of vehicles on the road. Now, if the car ownership reduces, then it also has environmental benefits. Of course, we are going to have less pollution. And the advantage to the owner would be that, for example, if I am assured that I can get a car in 2 or 3 minutes before I travel. So then I really don't need to invest money in buying my own vehicle and then pay for its maintenance, insurance, fuel, etc., etc. Okay, so that is a less of an economic burden for me. So this is another advantage of mass in general. Moreover, if we have mass at a large scale, then we would be using the existing infrastructure more effectively and will also be able to create economy of scale. Okay, so once we have economy of scale, then the costs of transportation comes down. And if the cost of transportation comes down, then it essentially becomes an enabling factor for people to travel and also to seek gainful employment. So these are again the fallouts of having an excellent mass system in the society. The other benefit of having mass is that the traffic management would become better. Okay, because it would be a more structured and scheduled traffic, so it will be easy to manage that traffic, and it will be easy to manage the congestion because the routes for the mass vehicles would more or less be defined. So if the routes are defined, then it's easy to control the traffic. So that's another advantage of having mass. Moreover, we can also improve the customer experience of the transportation network once we have full scale mass. So when I say customer experience, then it means, for example, if the younger generation, or as we call them as millennials, if they want to use the public transportation system in mass scenario, then maybe we allow them to have seamless network connectivity or internet access. Then it will make their travel experience more pleasant. If we have people who are, let's say, 60 plus, or the senior citizens of the society, and the mass transportation is actually comfortable for them, the vehicles are designed in such a way that they can get into the vehicle and come out easily, the bus stops are properly designed, then the adaptability of such a system for senior citizens becomes a pleasant experience, and they would start to use it more. If we ensure enough security in the public transportation system, then even women would be more comfortable to use it, and it will increase their mobility avenues. So a good mass system actually is a very big enabler. It gives a lot of freedom to variety of people and improves their customer experience. Plus, we can create supporting infrastructure for mass, as I said earlier, proper bus stop designs, proper booking arrangements, booking in the sense that you want to plan a trip in advance. So all that platform should be properly developed. Maybe we should try to enable single ticket usage and so on. So these are all the positive impacts of a mass system. And finally, mass system will reduce the overall number of vehicles on the roads, which is a boon for the environment. So these are, in short, the core objectives which a good mass wishes to achieve. Now let's see here, let's see an example to understand the concept of mass. So for example, there's a person who lives in a tier 2 city like Guwahati, okay, and on a Saturday morning he decides to visit his or her friend. So now the situation is that if there is a MaaS system in place, then the person can open up the MaaS app, okay, enter the destination, and eventually a customized itinerary comes up in front of the person. For example, it's shown here in this slide. So this slide shows that at 10 o'clock an e-rickshaw will pick up the person from the home. The rickshaw would arrive at the bus stop at 10 past 10. Around at quarter past 10, the e-bus would arrive and would take him to the destination at 20 past 10. And there a shared e-taxi would be waiting, will pick him up and drop him at the final destination, which is his friend's home. So if we see the itinerary, this essentially enables the first mile connectivity by using an e-rickshaw, and also enables the last mile connectivity using an e-taxi. So the person doesn't have to travel long distances on foot. And here it's a multi-modal system because it involves an e-rickshaw, it involves a bus, it involves a taxi or a car. So in principle, it's a multi-modal public transportation system which enables first mile and last mile connectivity. And the beauty of this system is that there is just one ticket. Okay, so one need not have to pay to e-rickshaw separately, buy a bus ticket separately, pay to the taxi driver separately. It's just one ticket which a person has bought or the traveler has bought and can use different modes of transportation and reach the final destination. So here again, we can expand the concept of EMAS. For example, in a metro city like Delhi, one day a student decides to visit his or her parents, okay, then she picks up the mobile phone or the laptop or whatever device the person happens to be using and enters the final destination and gets a complete itinerary on the screen. And the itinerary says that okay, you have to walk around 50 meters to reach a certain location. There you will come to the metro station, take a metro station, get down at this station, metro stop. From there you go to the airport. Once you reach the airport, you even reach your destination with the plane, and there at the other airport, at your destination airport, you can have a taxi waiting for you and so on. So you can actually plan a complete itinerary from one city to the other city, from your point of origin in one city to the point of destination in the other city, and this becomes a MaaS service. So these are some of the ideas of MaaS which is extended even further. So it can include metro, rail travel, plane travel. So we can keep on expanding the entire concept of MaaS. So to start with, what I feel is that MaaS would be a system which would evolve for a city, and gradually it can be deployed for intercity travel as well. So that's the future of transportation that is going to take place. Now if we see another case uh, where MaaS can be applicable, is that somebody can use MaaS services for daily travel. For example, I might be going to my office using a MaaS service. So in this case, I don't need a customized itinerary for one journey, but I need an itinerary for the entire month, because every day I would go to the office, come back from the office, and I would be using MaaS. So in that case, I can go for a monthly subscription of the various transportation services, and it can be neatly laid out to ensure that I reach my workplace on time, and also I come back from my workplace on time. So MaaS can even ensure that kind of daily travel needs of people. So this is the beauty of the MaaS system that we have. Now, also the advantage of MaaS would be that since the vehicles would be connected to one big system, so it will become very easy in case of EV scenario to manage the charging. Okay, so for example, there's a taxi driver who is a member of the MaaS service in a given city. So it might happen that the taxi driver is running low on charge. So his vehicle indicates that, well, you are running low on charge. There's a charging station nearby which has a free slot. You can reach the charging station in next 10 minutes, and if you plug your vehicle you can charge for another half an hour, and after 45 minutes you have a new pickup for a passenger. So even that kind of information come to the driver, and that will ensure that the driver has enough time to charge the vehicle, so the downtime for the driver is very minimal, and also the driver would be confident that he can give service to the next passenger who is who is on his timetable. So this kind of better utilization of the resources one can get from using the mass services. So in this case, the driver can actually book a charging slot at the free charging point, go there, enter the OTP or whatever code he gets, and then charges the vehicle for another half an hour and is good to go. So that will make sure that the vehicle or the car is not idle for a long time, and also it will ensure that while due to the charging requirement, the driver does not loses his or her business. So these are the kind of services that MAS can give to the vehicle owners as well. Moreover, what people are thinking is that there might be more diagnostic systems that can be integrated into the vehicles. So as the vehicle travels, the diagnostic system gathers all the informations of the vital subsystems of the vehicle and would come to know that what are the failures that the system or the vehicle can expect, and can alert the service centers that, let's say, in coming 1 hour or 1 week or a fortnight, the service center can expect X number of vehicles with these and these problems. So even the service centers can be better prepared to repair the vehicles that would be coming. They would have enough inventory of spare parts. Moreover, in case of EV scenario, the charging stations can also have information about number of vehicles that they might be expecting in coming 1 or 2 hours, or in 24 hours, or in a week's duration. So they can also plan their charging schedules and be ready. So this kind of utilization or an efficient utilization of resources is what we can achieve if we have a proper mass system. Moreover, if we have lots of e-buses, then most likely the city buses in India might have a battery swap technology. So if we have battery swap technology, then there would be multiple battery swap stations distributed or scattered throughout the city. So as soon as a bus starts to run low on a charge, the message can go to the nearest battery swap station that maybe in another 25 or 30 minutes you would be expecting a bus, and the battery swap station can be ready to service the bus, to change the battery pack of the bus. So this will ensure that there are no congestions or long queues anywhere in the system, and the system can work as a well-oiled machinery. So that's the idea of why we would like to adopt more and more of mass-based technologies. Also, it is a very good system if we are able to develop the mass. It's a very good system from the charging station perspective, because the charging stations, due to the connected behavior of all the vehicles, would know well in advance that how many vehicles can I expect in coming days or coming weeks. So once I have that idea, then I can do energy purchase negotiations with the distribution companies, electricity distribution companies, and that can bring in benefit of lower prices and so on. And even the distribution companies would know that what kind of charging loads they can expect in coming week, and that will help them to negotiate purchase of energy from the generators, and the generators would also know that what kind of loads they are going to expect in coming week, and they can schedule their generation better. So actually the benefit of a mass system can go all the way up to the generation stations. So that is the idea of a well connected, well integrated mass system. And if we look at a mass system, then there are multiple functionalities that it can achieve. So this slide gives you an idea of all the functionalities we can have. For example, it can combine multiple service providers, okay, and bring them to one platform. It can cater to different kinds of travelers. So it can be a single person travel, a family travel, or some tourist visiting a city. So it can cater to needs of every kind of a traveler. It will definitely use multimodal transportation, because if we don't go for multimodal transportation, then we cannot ensure first mile and last mile connectivity. Moreover, if we use multimodal transportation, then we will ensure that the wait times are minimum. Okay, so the biggest drawback of public transportation system worldwide is that the waiting times are long. So whenever you have to make a changeover, the waiting times are pretty long. If we can minimize the waiting time, maybe up to 5 minutes or maximum 10 minutes, then the adaptability or the ease of use of public transportation increases exponentially. So it's the time that people waste in changeovers and waiting for the bus or the train to come is what deters people from using public transportation system on a large scale. Okay, the mass will also ensure that the vehicles have minimum downtime, and they employ more and more of preventive diagnosis in the vehicle. Okay, so preventive diagnosis will predict a failure before it actually happens, and that reduces the downtime for the vehicle. It will also enable better utilization of the electricity grid and more integration of the renewable energy resources. Okay, you see, renewable energy resources can be predicted from the weather pattern. So for example, if we have a wind farm, we can predict that in coming week how much of power it will generate depending on the wind conditions. That can be predicted. It's a part of the weather forecasting. Similarly, if we have a solar PV farm, we can predict for next 2 3 days how much of power or energy would it be producing, depending by using the weather forecasting methods. Okay, so that the generation can be predicted. Now if we can also predict the consumption, then it will be easy to mate the generation with the consumption, and that brings in a lot of efficiency into the grid. The other functionality of mass would be that there would be single ticket for point to point travel. So one does not have to pay to different vehicles. Okay, so you don't need to pay for separately to an e-rickshaw or to a taxi or to the bus. You have just one ticket, and that one ticket is enough to go from point to point. Okay, so that increases the flexibility and the usefulness of the entire mass system. And if we look into the mass system, then the in case of e-mass system where EVs would be involved, the biggest drawback or the weak link would be the battery charging. So if we can ensure better battery charging infrastructure, then e-mass can pick up in a big way. The To do that, we will have to make sure that the vehicles are based on multiple technologies of charging. For example, big buses and so on, which are the backbone of city travel, should be battery swap enabled. Okay, the cars and so on can have wired charging. The smaller vehicles can even have wireless charging. So if we have multiple technologies involved in charging of EVs, then we can ensure that a charging infrastructure for a given vehicle is easily accessible, and the long waiting times are removed, and this will increase the penetration of EVs in general and also enable EMAS to evolve. And if we want to explore who would be the stakeholders of the entire system, then they would, of course, be transportation service providers, fleet operators like the taxi aggregators. We have Olas and Ubers, so they are the fleet operators. Then bus stop operators, okay. So because bus stops would be an integral part of the entire infrastructure, charging depot operators, grid operators, the users, that is the passengers or potential travelers, and also financial service providers, because once you buy a ticket, then it has to go through a payment gateway payment if you want to go for a cashless payment system. So the financial service providers would also be major stakeholder in EMAS system. Moreover, the EMAS system in totality, as we are discussing, uh, does not exist anywhere. It's still a concept, it's an evolving concept. And what I feel is that maybe 5 years down the line, we will start to see some initial versions of EMAS cropping up in different parts of the world. And maybe 10 years from now, EMAS might become full-fledged system which will enable public transportation, environment friendly multimodal public transportation. So we might have such kind of a system in place maybe in 10 years duration from today. So that's the goal that we want to achieve.